All right, well, good morning and welcome to part 2 of our series on Samson. Just a quick recap as to where we were last week. We established the birth of Samson, and the main thing we talked about was that Samson wasn't just any ordinary judge. This guy was someone who had a special birth. He was a step above, Gideon and Ehud and all these other ones who were just kind of people called to a task. Gideon, weakest man of the weakest tribe, that kind of thing. Samson was the kind of opposite of that. We have a guy who was this celestial representation, a guy who operates out of goodness, not because he thinks about it and says, oh, this is the right thing to do. He just operates. He knows what the right thing to do is, and he does it. And he pays no attention to his thinking as much as he pays attention to his drive to do what is right. And you had to have this guy. You had to have it because the problem was big. That was the Philistines. The Philistines are a big, big problem. And, I think the story of Samson is very relatable to our lives because, what gets us in trouble? Well, what gets us in trouble is that we actually want to do something that we shouldn't be doing. That's the kind of the thing that goes on here. And so much of what we can focus on is the understanding what's right and wrong. And yet, I think we've all been in the place where I know I should do this, but I actually did this, right? That's what we're fighting here in this story is I know what to do, but I didn't do it. And this is just part of regeneration. This is part of what we have to fix within ourselves. And so we think about this point in the grander story of the children of Israel. Well, this is the point where okay, they've gotten into the Holy Land, they've settled some things out. It seems like they've got their life in order, right? Things are overall going pretty well for them. They've established new patterns. And the trap is you kind of get this self-satisfaction, this contentment going, okay, we've got this basically under control. I'm not so bad, I'm thinking the right things, I'm basically doing the right things. And what happens when we get complacent, that's the word I was looking for, complacent, is that we start to relax. We start to kind of like, well, you know what? I can cede some ground here because things are basically going okay. And once those complacent actions happen, like the enemy says, I can grab a hold of something. I can get a hold of this person and try to regain some strength and regain control of our character. So this is the real war we're working with here. And Samson, he is this call to be doing the right thing, but what does he get undone by? Women, and these women are representing our will, our desires. Take a look at your order of service. It's the last reading I'm going to do, not the last, second to last one, from True Christian Religion number 570. And this kind of underscores the problem that we're dealing with the Philistines. It says, the will, which is just the women of the Philistines, the will from which man is not moved in the slightest degree except by delight. For the will viewed in itself is nothing but the affection of some love, thus some delight. For it is some pleasure and consequent satisfaction that causes volition. All right, so it's some pleasure that makes us do something. And you can kind of think about times in your life where you have a principle and a competing desire. Right? How many of us have known and been taught, you shouldn't yell and be speak unkindly to people. And how many of us have said, I'm going to give this guy a piece of my mind. And you lay into this some person for whatever it is they've done to wrong you. I think we've all had that experience of speaking unkindly, and we know we shouldn't do it. Why do we do it? Did we know better? Yeah. Did we do it anyway? Yeah. Why? Well, because we have a will. We have a heart for it. We have a delight that we perceive in putting somebody right. Giving them a piece of our mind. That's what it's the will isn't moved by some, except by some delight. There's a delight in hollering at that person. Teenagers, right? How many people have been taught you shouldn't have sex before marriage? And how many people have sex before marriage? Yeah, like almost everybody. Because why? Well, because it's fun. It's as simple as that. It's a good time, and we get caught up in this. Why? Because our will says, oh, we should do this. This is fun. It feels good, right? And it's this urging, right? Sometimes it's this urging, it's a nagging, it's over and over, and that is this story. Samson isn't overcome by this one little prick of desire. It's this movement, it's this pushing, it's this craving. That's what we're getting into here. So, that's kind of the story in a nutshell, but let's go through this thing and kind of pick it apart, because you're going to see here that it's this desire that is the problem. It's not an intellectual understanding. So here we go, Judges chapter 14. Now Samson went down to Timnah, and he saw a woman in Timnah of the daughters of the Philistines. So he went up and told his father and mother, saying, I have seen a woman in Timnah of the daughters of the Philistines. Now therefore go get her for me as a wife. His father and mother said to him, Is there no woman among the daughters of your brethren or among all my people that you must go and get a wife from the uncircumcised Philistines? And Samson said to his father, Get her for me, for she pleases me well. Now, pause there for a second. If you've ever read the book of Judges, you've probably heard this line in there that says, and it was right in their own eyes. And it gets them all into all sorts of trouble, right? The people think, oh, this is the right thing to do. And the refrain you hear over and over is, and everybody did what was right in their own eyes. Well, if you take this phrase, for she pleases me well, and you translate it literally, it means she was right in my eyes. Get her for me, for she is right in my eyes. And it's kind of giving you some foreshadowing of what other things happen in the book of Judges. It connects it all. So the problem here is he desires her. It's not like she's right in the Lord's eyes. She's right in my eyes. I want it. And this is where we have problems. We desire something that isn't good for us. But his father and mother did not know that it was of the Lord, that he was seeking an occasion to move against the Philistines. For at that time the Philistines had dominion over Israel. So Samson went down to Timnah with his father and mother and came to the vineyards of Timnah. Now remember, Samson's not supposed to be drinking of the vine, so he's in the vineyards. He's in Philistine land. What do? Well, they argue. They use reasoning, and that's what the vineyard is, right? Grapes are actions, and wine is things learned from good actions. So he's in the Philistine land of how they operate. He hasn't drank anything, but that's where he is. So now to his surprise, a young lion came roaring against him. And the Spirit of the Lord came mightily upon him, and he tore the lion apart as one would have torn apart a young goat, though he had nothing in his hand. But he did not tell his father and mother what he had done. So the lion is the power of the Philistines. It's what that doctrine that their life represents comes attacks them. And there are some things that Samson he's invulnerable to. Right? If you come along and I start preaching about how we shouldn't push little old ladies down the stairs, nobody has a problem with that, right? That temptation comes, that's the lion, and just, poof, yeah, no problem. We can handle that, no problem. That's how Samson does it. And then he went down and he talked with the woman, and she pleased Samson well. After some time, when he returned to get her, he turned aside to see the carcass of the lion. And behold, a swarm of bees and honey were in the carcass of the lion. He took some of it in his hands and went along eating. And when he came to his father and mother, he gave some to them, and they also ate. But he did not tell them that he had taken the honey out of the carcass of the lion. So the idea here is that you're confronted with the lion, which is this idea of having a life of knowing things but not doing it. You conquer that desire, right? You conquer, bang, I got it. And out of it comes what? Honey, the satisfaction of doing what is right. The land of Canaan is a land flowing with milk and honey. It's filled with the satisfaction and the happiness of doing what is right. So verse 10, so his father went down to the woman, and Samson gave a feast there, for young men used to do so. And as it happened, when they saw him, they brought 30 companions to be with him. Samson said to him, "Let me pose a riddle to you. If you can correctly solve and explain it to me within the 7 days of the feast, then I will give you 30 linen garments and 30 changes of clothing. But if you cannot explain it to me, then you shall give me 30 linen garments and 30 changes of clothing." They said to him, "Pose your riddle that we may hear it." So he said to them, "Out of the eater came something to eat, and out of the strong came something sweet." Now for 3 days they could not explain the riddle. But it came to pass on the 7th day that they said to Samson's wife, "Entice your husband, that he may explain the riddle to us, or else we will burn you and your father's house with fire. Have you invited us and ordered us to take what is ours? Is that not so?" Then Samson's wife wept on him and said, "You only hate me. You do not love me. You have posed a riddle to the sons of my people, but you have not explained it to me." So I guess we'll pause there. The riddle, it's we see obviously the answer to it. It's the lion and the honey. But the important thing for us to consider is that the Philistines can't comprehend this. Because Samson has shown that his riddle is about getting satisfaction from doing what is right. What do the Philistines get desire and satisfaction out of? Well, doing what they want to do. They have faith, and then we do whatever we want. We don't have the actions tied to it. They don't comprehend the idea that doing what is right actually brings happiness. They don't get it. That's why they can't solve the riddle, because they just can't comprehend it. So they go to Samson's wife, who's one of them, and says, "Well, you've got to get this. You've got to get this answer for us." Samson replies here in verse 16, "Look, I have not explained it to my father or my mother, so should I explain it to you?" Now she had wept with him on the 7 days while their feast lasted. And it happened on the 7th day he told her, because why? Because she pressed him so much. This is the fundamental thing that gets Samson into trouble, nagging. But it's easy to say, "Oh, well, Samson, why'd you give in so easy? You just nagged, come on, you should toughen up, guy, right?" But when you put this into context of our lives, and you see that, this woman is a desire, it's a craving, it's an urging, well, then it starts to make more sense. How many times has somebody gone on a diet, say, "You know what, I'm not going to eat whatever," and then we have this desire for it, right? "I'm not going to eat pizza for a month. Boy, I sure wish I could have a pizza." It just keeps coming. "Boy, I sure wish I could have a pizza. Oh man, I wish I could have a pizza." It just, whatever it is, right? We have this desire, and that desire is hard to rein in, right? It's hard to pull that in. So Samson giving in to Delilah, or in this case, not Delilah, his first wife, is giving into a craving and desire. Boy, I sure would like to have this. I'd like to give that person a piece of my mind. So she pressed him so much, and then she explained the riddle to the sons of her people. So the men of the city said to him on the 7th day, before the sun went down, "What is sweeter than honey? What is stronger than a lion?" And he said to them, "If you had not plowed with my heifer, you would have not solved my riddle," which he is correct. Then the Spirit of the Lord came upon him mightily, and he went down to Ashkelon and killed 30 of their men.